Good morning, class. I'm Shimizu, a professor of Kyushu University. This is first lecture of Introduction to ASEAN. This mark is ASEAN's mark, and this mark is Kyushu University's mark. The following are covered in this lecture, my lecture. Firstly, introduction. Secondly, ASEAN overview and brief history. Thirdly, ASEAN economic integration and AEC, ASEAN economic community. Finally, ASEAN-Japan friendship and cooperation. And first part is introduction. We have the ASEAN in Today's World ASTW program. I'd like to introduce this program, ASTW. The ASEAN in Today's World ASTW program, founded by Kyushu University in 2009, is a unique two-week international study program focused on ASEAN and East Asian affairs. And this program designed for undergraduate students from around the world offers courses primarily in English, making it accessible to a global audience. And this is supported by the ASEAN Secretariat and the ASEAN University Network, AUN. ASTW is committed to developing future global leaders with a deep understanding of ASEAN's dynamics. And this is a message from Secretary General of ASEAN. ASEAN today continues to realize the vision of its founding fathers and aspirations of its peoples to live in peace, harmony, and prosperity. In this context, we recognize the important role of youth as a catalyst for economic, social, and cultural progress. We strive to instill in them a spirit of innovation and entrepreneurship, which is crucial for future ASEAN leaders. In line with this program, such as ASEAN in Today's World ASTW, are welcome in strengthening ASEAN awareness among the peoples of the region, as well as in promoting a culture of peace and mutual understanding. To this end, I commend the ASEAN in Today's World initiative for enabling the region's young people to get to know each other better while developing the knowledge and life skills they need to successfully navigate today's world and future. Okay, this is the message from Secretary General of ASEAN. I'd like to introduce this course, Introduction to ASEAN. My class is just Introduction to ASEAN. Introduction to ASEAN is the first course in ASTW. We have 8 lessons by ASEAN experts. You can learn the basics of ASEAN. I want you to learn about ASEAN properly. My lesson is the first lessons of 8 lessons, ASEAN overview and history. I'd like to introduce myself briefly. I teach world economy, Asian economy, and international economics at Kyushu University's undergraduate and graduate schools. I've been studying ASEAN economic integration, East Asian economic integration, and ASEAN economic integration and the automobile industry. Now I'm chairman of the ASEAN study group in Tokyo ASGT in the ASEAN Japan Center AGC in Tokyo. So I'm president of Japanese Association for Asian Studies, JAS. And JAS is the biggest academic association for Asian Studies in Japan. I'd like to introduce 8 lessons of this and the introduction to ASEAN. As I say, first lesson is my lesson, ASEAN Overview and History. Second lesson is Economic Integration of ASEAN and AC by Professor Ishikawa from Asia University. Third lesson is Economic Integration and Business Activities through FTAs in ASEAN by Professor Sukegawa from Kokushikan University. And fourth lesson is ASEAN-Japan Economic Partnership and Regional Cooperation by Professor Shinoda, National Graduate Institute for Policy Studies. He is former RCEP negotiator from METI in Japan. Fifth lesson is the prospect of the ASEAN in the Indo-Pacific era by Professor Oba from Kanagawa University. Sixth is economic exchanges among ASEAN and Japan by Professor Nakanishi from Teikyo University. Seventh is challenges to be addressed and cooperation between ASEAN and Japan by Secretary General ASEAN Japan Center Hirabayashi. So, and the final lesson is the future that ASEAN and Japan should aim for together by Assistant Director, ASEAN Japan Center, Ishida. Okay, these are 8 lessons of this course, Introduction to ASEAN. The next part is ASEAN Overview and Brief History. ASEAN was established in 1976. Indonesia, Malaysia, and Philippines, Singapore, Thailand are first members, just ASEAN 5. I'd like to say the founding of ASEAN. On 8th August 1976, 5 leaders, the foreign minister of Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Singapore, and Thailand sat down together in the main hall of the Department of Foreign Affairs building in Bangkok, Thailand, and signed a document. By virtue of the document, the Association Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, was born. The 5 foreign ministers who signed it: Adam Malik of Indonesia, Narciso Ramos of the Philippines, Tun Abdul Razak of Malaysia, S. Rajaratnam of Singapore, and Tanat Koman of Thailand, would subsequently be hailed as the founding fathers, or probably the most successful intergovernmental organization in the developing world today. And the document that they signed will be known as ASEAN Declaration in 1976. It was short, simply worded document containing just 5 articles. It declares the establishment of an association for regional cooperation among the countries of Southeast Asia to be known as the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, and spelled out the aims and purposes of the association. These aims and purposes were about cooperation in the economic, social, cultural, technical, educational, and other fields, and in the promotion of regional peace and stability through abiding and respect for justice and the rule of law and adherence to the principle of the United Nations Charter. And so it stipulated that the association will be open for participation by all states in the Southeast Asian region, subscribing to its aims, principles, and purposes. It proclaimed ASEAN as representative the collective will of the nation of Southeast Asia to bind themselves together in friendship and cooperation. And through joint efforts, and sacrifices secure for their peoples and for prosperity, the blessing of peace, freedom, and prosperity. So ASEAN began an intra-economic cooperation in 1976. Brunei joined ASEAN in 1984, just as ASEAN became an ASEAN 6. ASEAN agreed on the ASEAN Free Trade Area after in 1992. Vietnam joined in July 1995, Laos PDO, and Myanmar in July 1997, and Cambodia in April 1999. So CLMV joined ASEAN in the late 1990s. So ASEAN became ASEAN 10. ASEAN agreed on ASEAN Community AC, including three communities. And first community is ASEAN Security Community, ASC. Second community is ASEAN Economic Community, AEC. And third community is ASEAN Social Cultural Community, ASCC, in 2003. So AEC, ASEAN Economic Community, is the center. The ASEAN Charter signed in 2007. So ASEAN established AEC, ASEAN Economic Community, in 2015, moving toward ASEAN Economic Community AEC 2025. ASEAN is the oldest and most advanced economic integration in Asia. And now, ASEAN is a major and important part of the world economy. ASEAN, including 10 countries, is a major and important part of the world economy and the Asian economy. ASEAN's total populations, 676.6 million in 2023, and this is 8.4% of the world population, and big part. And ASEAN total GDP is 3.79 trillion US dollars in 2023. And this occupies 3.6% of the world GDP, but it is expanding rapidly. That's almost the same as India, and it's catching up with Japan. And ASEAN's and the total international merchandise trade is 3.53 trillion US dollars in 2023, and this occupied 15% of the world international merchandise trade. And ASEAN's total foreign direct investment inflow is 234.0 billion US dollars in 2023. This occupied 18% of the world foreign direct investment inflow. And this is a big part. Compared to GDP, international trade and direct investments are extremely large. ASEAN is connected to world economy and by export and foreign direct investment. It is a big key for ASEAN to rapidly developing. And this is, and I said, compared to GDP, international trade and direct investments are extremely large. And this is a characteristic of ASEAN. And it is larger than other economic integration, including EU or Mercosur. And these are ASEAN selected data and the latest data. So ASEAN is comprised of 10 different countries. because and the ASEAN's populations, largest is Indonesia, 279 million. So, and the smallest is Brunei, 0.45 million in 2023. This is a big difference. So, ASEAN's GDP, and largest is Indonesia, 1.37 trillion US dollars, and smallest is Brunei, 15 billion US dollars in 2023. So it's a very big difference. So GDP PC, GDP per capita is, and the largest is Singapore, 8,470, 840,000 and 714 US dollars in 2023. And smallest is Myanmar, and 1,144 US dollar in 2023. And this is just a fiscal year. And this is calendar year, so, and this is fiscal year. This is from, and so it's in the statistics. It depends on the each statistics. And this is a unique characteristic of ASEAN compared to other regional integration, especially compared to EU. So ASEAN moved to economic integration with these big differences. These are ASEAN members that selected basic indicators 2023. Okay, and the next part is in the ASEAN Economic Integration, AEC, ASEAN Economic Community. I'd like to say, and firstly in the summary, ASEAN Economic Integration and AEC. ASEAN improved economic integration in the structural changes of the world economy. And the changes include, and firstly, and the Plaza Accord in 1985. And secondly, the Cold War. And thirdly, Asian economic crisis since in the 1997. Finally, world financial crisis. ASEAN and performed and BDC, Brand to Brand Complementation Scheme, since 1988. ICO, ASEAN Industrial Cooperation, since 1996. And after ASEAN Free Trade Area, and since 1992, and AEC, ASEAN Economic Community, since 2003. And so ASEAN established of AEC in 2015. ASEAN established after. This is the central and policy of the AEC. This includes free flow of goods. ASEAN's elimination of tariffs became 95.99% tariff lines and at 0% compared to Japan's EPS rate. This is not so high. So ASEAN is in the moving and towards free flow of service, investment, and skilled labor, and infrastructure building, and narrowing the gap, etc. In the current severe world economy, ASEAN has been deepening its economic integration. ASEAN is the economic integration in the World Growth Center. ASEAN is the oldest and most advanced economic integration in Asia. And this is in this part summary. So I'd like to say in the history of ASEAN economic integration. ASEAN established in 1967, as I say, economic cooperation began in 1976. Its policy is was in the ASEAN strategy for CISI, and it is just the collective import substituting industrialization. This includes three policies: AIP, AIC, and PTA. This change to the economic cooperation strategy. ASEAN changed the economic cooperation strategy in 1987 due to the changes after the Plaza Accord. This new and the policy was ASEAN strategy for CFEI, collective FDI-led and export-oriented industrialization. Due to the very big policy change of the ASEAN countries. ASEAN country changes from the import substituting industrialization to the FDI-led and export-oriented industrialization. So ASEAN as a whole changed the policy from the former and the ASEAN strategy for CISI, collective import substitution in industrialization to ASEAN strategy for CFEI, collective FDI-led and export-oriented industrialization. So ASEAN adopted BBC, brand-to-brand complementation scheme. And this is proposed by a Japanese company. And this is Mitsubishi Motor Corporation, MMC, in 1988. So ASEAN agreed on after ASEAN Free Trade Area in 1992. And so membership has expanded to Indochina since 1995 due to the changes of the Cold War. So Vietnam joined in 1995, Laos and Myanmar joined in 1997, so Cambodia joined in 1999. ASEAN's economic integration has been deepening due to changes since the Asian economic crisis since 1997. So ASEAN adopted ASEAN Concord II and adopted ASEAN in October 2003. And just as ASEAN is in the structuring single market or production base by firstly 2020. So this objective was inviting foreign investment. So FDI is very important for ASEAN. So ASEAN adopted front-loading ASEAN up to 2015 in January 2007. ASEAN adopted AEC blueprint in November 2007. And these include four pillars. And firstly, A, single market and production base. This includes free flow of firstly, goods, secondly, services, thirdly, investment, fourthly, capital, and finally, skilled labor. And the second pillar, B, is competitive economic region. The third pillar, C, was the equitable economic development. And this is just narrowing the economic gap. The final pillar is D. It was in the integration into the global economy. So ASEAN adopted as AC scorecard and monitoring system and since 2008. ASEAN accelerated in the completing of AC. So, and the ASEAN was steadily moved toward establishment of AC in 2015. So ASEAN just established AEC in December 2015. Then almost tariffs were eliminated in ASEAN 10. This is a big result. So ASEAN adopted new and the AEC blueprint, AEC blueprint 2025 in December 2015. These include the 5 pillars. The first pillar is a highly integrated and cohesive economy. And this pillar includes the 6 part. A1, firstly, trading goods. And secondly, trading services. Thirdly, investment environment. Fourthly, and financial integration, financial inclusion, and financial stability. Fifth is facilitating movement of skilled labor and business visitors. Finally, sixth is enhancing participation in global value chains. The second pillar B, competitive, innovative, and dynamic ASEAN. So, and the third pillar C is enhanced connectivity and sectoral cooperation. The fourth pillar is D, resilient, inclusive, people-oriented, and people-centered ASEAN. And final pillar E is a global ASEAN. So ASEAN have been moving toward AC 2025 and AC 2030 and AC 2014. I'd like to tell the result of ASEAN economic integration and just tariff reduction through after. ASEAN and had and steady result obtained and thus far through ASEAN economic integration. And tariff reductions and since 1993 through after ASEAN free trade area. And in January 2010, tariffs were eliminated in ASEAN 6, just original member states, and thus realizing after. Increasing in after utilization rate by individual states. For example, 61.3% of export from Thailand to Indonesia in 2010 used after. In January 2015, almost tariffs were eliminated in ASEAN 10. But 7% of CLMV tariff items were deferred for 3 years. So in 3 years later, in January 2018, almost all tariffs were eliminated in ASEAN 10. The 7% tariff items for CLMV that had been deferred were eliminated. And the second and the result of ASEAN economic integration is just it is support for production networks. And Japanese corporations have been expanding their production networks throughout ASEAN. So ASEAN policies support these production networks. Especially the automotive industry is a typical example. And Japanese automotive manufacturers hold a large share in ASEAN. And just it is about 80% currently. So, especially Toyota has been supported and by ASEAN policies. BBC, brand-to-brand complementation scheme, ICO, ASEAN Industrial Cooperation, and after ASEAN Free Trade Area since the 1990s, with major components mutually completed in the ASEAN region. So, and the typical is Toyota's IMV. Okay, and this is the IMV's type, And this is the race test type and the Toyota IMV. Hilux, Revo, Rocco. And this is at Bangkok Motor Show in September 2023. I took this photo at Bangkok in September 2023. Okay, and this is some gorgeous type of this Toyota IMB, and just it is a one-ton pickup truck. And Toyota IMVs and the production network has been and since 2004. And this network is being expanded to include primary parts makers such as Denso and part procurement, production and export of one-ton pickup trucks in various areas. So, and the multi-layered production network is being expanded to include primary parts makers such as Denso, secondary and tertiary makers, as well as material suppliers. So, and the after provides this support. And this is a matching of ASEAN integration policy and corporate production network structure. So, and this is a schematic of main car parts complementation at Toyota ILV. Okay, this is Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines, Malaysia, and Vietnam, Singapore. ASEAN and has been producing and very important and parts and very important and cars in Thailand, Indonesia, and Philippines, Malaysia, Vietnam, Singapore. So Toyota has been making and parts, important parts and important cars to ASEAN markets and world markets. And this is my and figure. Okay, and this is IMA the latest type. So, okay, and the third big result of ASEAN economic integration is and the ASEAN led wider East Asian economic integration. East Asian regional cooperation was and developed in the wake of the Asian financial crisis since 1997. The key player is ASEAN. ASEAN plus 3, EAS, East Asian Summit, etc. Deployed in multiple layers. So just this is the framework of East Asian regional cooperation centering on ASEAN. And this is just ASEAN. So this is ASEAN plus 3. And so, and these are RCEP. So, in the ES, and PMC, Post Minister and Committee. So, ARF, ASEAN Regional Forum. So, and these are CPTPP. So, this is APEC. And the center is ASEAN. And this in the frameworks of East Asian regional cooperation. Okay. ASEAN. So, and the structuring and of FTA networks as ASEAN plus 1 FTAs. ACFTA, ASEAN China FTA, ASEAN, ASEAN Japan FTA. And so AKFTA, ASEAN Korea FTA, AIFTA, ASEAN India FTA. So ASEAN CER, ASEAN Australia and New Zealand FTA. And these are five and the FTAs was completed in January 2021 as a half of ASEAN. Just ASEAN is half of many East Asian regional cooperation that frameworks M and ASEAN plus one FTAs. So, and the ASEAN is a central actor of this and the East Asian economic integration. However, and the FTA for East Asia as a whole and CJK, China, Japan, Korea were not established. So ASEAN proposed RCEP in 2011. I'd like to tell you that the ASEAN led RCEP. Okay, RCEP is very important in the East Asian and wider economic integration. RCEP agreement was signed by 15 countries in November 2020. It includes Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, Vietnam, Japan, China, Korea, Australia, and New Zealand. Just 15 countries. So RCEP came into effect in January 2022 in 10 countries. So Singapore, China, Japan, Brunei, Cambodia, Laos, Thailand, Vietnam, Australia, and New Zealand. After them, and South Korea and Malaysia joined in 2022. So and the Indonesia and Philippines joined in 2023. RCEP established a modern, comprehensive, highly quality, and mutually beneficial economic partnership framework. And this is to facilitate the expansion of regional trade and investment and contribute to global economic growth. The significance of RCEP. Firstly, the first mega FTA in wider East Asia. East Asia is the world's growth center, just the world growth center. Very important in the region, in the world economy. And secondly, the first FTA between Japan, China, and Korea. And these are the big economies in Asia. And thirdly, RCEP included provisions that surpass those of the existing ASEAN plus one FTAs. Finally, this is good characteristic of the centrality of ASEAN in the East Asian regional framework. This is a great significance for ASEAN. Of course, in the ASEAN and wanted to get and the centrality of ASEAN in the East Asian and regional frameworks and justice in RCEP. Okay, and this in the figure is number of certificates of origin issued in Japan. You know, and so this blue part is a certificate, number of certificates of RCEP. And this is a new and the part and the of and the certificate of origin issued in Japan. And the Japan has been using in the RCEP. Maybe in the for export and import with especially China and Korea or ASEAN countries. Okay, since and January 2022. Okay, this is blue part. And so this is and increasing. Japan, of course, and the Japan has been using this and the RCEP and FTA, new and the East Asian wide economic integration. So, ASEAN economic integration in the current and the difficult world and Asian economy. Now, this is a very and the severe world and Asian economy. The current severe world and Asian economy. Firstly, the rising protectionism and the US-China conflict. Secondly, Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the war. Thirdly, and the situation in the Middle East, including Israel and Palestine. Finally, Myanmar's military coup and civil war. And these are very severe situations. In this situation, ASEAN has been deepening its economic integration. ASEAN is the economic integration in the World Growth Center, East Asia. ASEAN is the oldest and most advanced economic integration. In this difficult world economy and the restrictions of trade and investment, ASEAN and RCEP are becoming more important. ASEAN economic integration and RCEP are essential for the development of the world and Asian economies. Okay, and the last part is ASEAN-Japan friendship and cooperation. And this is a long-term friendship and cooperation over 50 years. And I could tell and the history of and the ASEAN-Japan friendship and cooperation. ASEAN and Japan's cooperation began in 1973, and just it was and the establishment of ASEAN-Japan Forum on synthetic rubber. And then, and the ASEAN countries, especially in the Malaysia and Indonesia, had very big and damage and by and rapid export and by Japanese company, especially about on and synthetic rubber. Okay, so and the ASEAN country and wanted to hold and some meetings and about and the synthetic and the rubber and programs. And so, and the ASEAN and Japan established the special meeting and the ASEAN-Japan Forum on synthetic rubber. And so, and this ASEAN is not each ASEAN countries, and but then the ASEAN as a whole. And so this is first time for ASEAN to negotiate with Japan. So, and in the second ASEAN summit in August 1977, The only and the non-regional leader invited was Japanese Prime Minister Fukuda. Then he promised to provide 1 billion in aid for ASEAN industrial project, especially AIP. So, and in 1977, Japan proposed Fukuda, and Prime Minister Fukuda, and revealed and Japan's three principles of ASEAN diplomacy. And this is just Fukuda doctrine. And this is, and firstly, Japan will not become a military power. And secondly, Japan will build a relationship with ASEAN based on heart-to-heart contact. And finally, Japan and ASEAN are equal partners. And this is very important in the Japan's principle of ASEAN diplomacy. It remains. And the first Japan ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting was held in 1978. The first foreign ministers meeting with a country outside the ASEAN region. The ASEAN Japan Center agency was established in 1981. So, and we welcome and the Secretary General M and the Assistant Director from and the agency for and this course. You know, 7th lecture M, 8th lecture, final lecture. The third ASEAN summit in 1987. Only them and only Prime Minister Takeshita was invited as a non-regional leader and promised the ASEAN Japan Development Fund, AJDF. And so, and the ASEAN agreed the BBC scheme and the brand-to-brand complementation scheme in 1988. And Mitsubishi Motor Corporation, MMC, proposed and the BBC to ASEAN, and ASEAN adopted the BBC scheme. The Japan ASEAN Summit was held in Tokyo in December 2003. This was in the 30th anniversary of ASEAN Japan Friendship and Cooperation. And this was the first summit meeting to be held outside the region, with all ASEAN leaders and the Japanese Prime Minister in attendance. And this summit and declared a Tokyo Declaration for a dynamic and enduring Japan-ASEAN partnership in the new millennium. So the ASEAN-Japan Summit in December 2005, and the Japan-ASEAN Integration Fund, JAIF, was announced and established in 2006. So, and the Japan-ASEAN Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, just in the ASEAN-Japan FTA. And exactly, Japan-ASEAN Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, AGESEP, was signed in 2008 and came into effect in 2008, the same year. And so, in the first dialogue between ASEAN Secretary General and the Federation of Japanese Chambers of Commerce and Industry in ASEAN, FJCCIA, in August 2008. And you know, and Japan and had and the Great East Japan earthquake, and ASEAN supported and in March in 2011. Okay, and the Great East Japan earthquake and support from ASEAN in March to 2011. ASEAN and held ASEAN Special Foreign Ministers meeting in April 2011. ASEAN Secretary General Surin led a volunteer team to Japan in June. A mission of Japan to ASEAN opened in Jakarta in May 2011. And this is the second mission to ASEAN, followed US. And the Japan ASEAN Special Summit meeting in December was held in December 2013. It was a vision statement on Japan ASEAN friendship and cooperation. So adopted JAIF, JAIF 2.0. So, and the ASEAN-Japan Economic Co-Creation Vision and Future Design and Action Plan was released in August 2023. The commemorative summit for the 50th year of ASEAN-Japan Friendship and Cooperation in December 2023. Okay, and so, and this summit and adopted Asia Zero Emission Community, AZEC, So, and the ASEAN and Japan have built a long-term relationship of friendship and cooperation, spans over 50 years, a very long time, Okay, and the result of ASEAN-Japan friendship and cooperation. ASEAN and Japan and the many dialogues, including summits, foreign ministers meeting, and economic ministers meeting, especially every year. So, and the secondly, establishment of many funds, including the ASEAN Cultural Funds and JAIF. And thirdly, and the many examples of Japan's cooperation and contribution to the ASEAN economy and the ASEAN economic integration. A typical example, and from recent years, is the Nea Krung Bridge. It is in the Tsubasa Bridge in Cambodia. In April 2015, the Nea Krung Bridge and the Tsubasa Bridge was completed on National Route 1, which crosses the Mekong River, very big river in Southeast Asia, in the suburbs of Phnom Penh, Cambodia, and with Japanese grant aid. Before the bridge, the only way to cross the river, Mekong River, was by ferry. But with the completion of the bridge, Bangkok in Thailand, Phnom Penh in Cambodia, and Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam are connected by road and completing the Southern Economic Corridor, very important economic corridor in ASEAN. And this is extremely important infrastructure and for improving connectivity, not only for the development of Cambodia, but also for ASEAN as a whole. Okay, and this is the Tsubasa Bridge and Nea Krung Bridge just before completion, and 2 months just before completion in February 2015. I took this photo. I visited constructing the Tsubasa Bridge, Nea Krung Bridge, with special members from JCC, Japanese Chambers of Commerce in Bangkok, in Thailand. And this is a very big chance. This was a very big chance for me. And this is completed in the Tsubasa Bridge or Nea Krung Bridge. Okay, from and the JICA homepage. And this is very and gorgeous and the bridge crossing and the Mekong River, very big river in Southeast Asia. And so, and I hear now, and many couple visiting this bridge as a date, especially in the sunset. Okay. Okay, and so, and I'd like to tell and the 10 recommendations and to enhance ASEAN-Japan relations through economic cooperation by ASGT in agency, ASEAN Study Group in Tokyo, in and the ASEAN-Japan Center in Tokyo. And the ASEAN Study Group in Tokyo, ASGT, as the ASEAN Japan Center Agency, an international organization in Tokyo, chaired by the author, by me, and has compiled and published 10 recommendations to enhance ASEAN-Japan relations through economic cooperation. And so, as well as the collection papers for the 50th year of ASEAN-Japan friendship and cooperation in 2023. Okay, I'd like to introduce 10 recommendations and to enhance ASEAN-Japan relations through economic cooperation. And so I'd like to pick up the 3 points. Firstly, Japan must develop a long-term ASEAN strategy that considers ASEAN's vision for the future. This should involve creating policies that will have a positive impact on ASEAN. Additionally, Japan should engage in serious dialogue with ASEAN to explore collaborations and promote more two-way cooperation. Secondly, ASEAN and Japan should cooperate to maintain and expand a regime free trade and investment, while simultaneously building a resilient and stable supply chain. These are very important for ASEAN and Japan economies, and so maybe in the East Asian economies. And so I'd like to pick up the 10th and the recommendation. The final and the recommendation is the promotion of mutual exchanges between young people and should be prioritized. It is recommended that a policy research network consisting of universities and research institutions, as well as exchange fund be established to facilitate intellectual exchanges between Japan and ASEAN. And such measures will strengthen ties and foster greater cooperation between the two regions. Okay, and so this program, ASGT program, this is a good example of this and the 10th the recommendation. I guess so. So, I believe. Okay. I'd like to wrap up my lecture. Okay. Thank you very much for your attention. See you again.